This is beyond ridiculous. The Wild get absolutely robbed of a win, not just by the refs, but by one of their own players, and one of the craziest lineup decisions that we have seen all playoffs, leading directly to a Minnesota Wild loss. We have to dive into all of the craziness that went down in this game, but it wasn't all negative. There were some positives. Kaprizov getting the Wild back into the game after an early deficit. We got also Matt Boldy putting up a great performance, and even Marc Andre Fleury making NHL history with an appearance in this game. Kirk, we got so much to break down in this episode of Wild Digest, but before we get into it, guys, we just passed the 50 subscriber mark. Let's get to 100. We're only 45 away. We got a lot of new subscribers coming in every day, and it's completely free to hit subscribe down below. We're going to be here after all the playoffs, off season long. This is your home for Minnesota Wild content. Kirk, look, I know we all want to talk about Mr. Gustav Nyquist. We want to talk about this right here, and I promise we'll get into it later, but I want to start out with some other stuff first, talk about maybe some more positives of the game, and if you want to, feel free to skip ahead until you see it, because I wouldn't blame you if you did, but let's just take a look at the box score. Feel free to pause if you want. Look, Kirk, I mean, once again, to me, the thing that jumps out, that top line. Like, without those guys, the Wild are getting no depth help, and that never was that more evident than tonight, with the fourth line of Rossi, Brazeau, Trenton being right at the bottom of the scorecard, even Hartman, Johansson down there as well. How did you feel about the team's offensive and defensive performance tonight, outside of what I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit later?
Yeah, it really seems like a broken record on paper. We're seeing the top line here at the top of this list continuously. We're seeing the bottom two lines still not find that success, but ultimately Kirill Kaprizov, Matt Boldy are still on their game, and that's why I still have hope in this series. This series, we're still down 3-2, but we're not out of it. Heading back to Minnesota, having these two available right now, coming in as warm and as hot as they are after this game, after this whole result, knowing that the Wild are going to want to get back after what happened here tonight, Minnesota is going to be absolutely on fire when they get back to Xcel Energy Center next game, and I'm expecting a very big game from the Wild and maybe a few roster changes, which we're going to touch on in a bit here as well. But the defense has been something as well that needs to be a bit sorted out, I guess we could say. When we're looking at tonight's game, their overtime game-winning goal certainly was not the most favorable decision for John Merrill, who was jumping in this lineup for Zeev Boyum, and was that the right decision? I think that's something we're going to have to really take a while to sleep on, let it see. You know, Boyum had a big target on his back. yeah. Well, Boyum had a big target on his back. John Merrill played okay for the entire game, but that really kind of went all out the window with that overtime goal. And it'll be intriguing to see if Boyum is back in this lineup next game. And I'm an advocate for it. I certainly hope that is, as well as some other roster changes that will hopefully be made on the forward side of things here.
Yeah, there's a lot of question marks coming out of this game. Again, lineup changes especially, not just lineup, but like talking about Billy G, our GM, and talking about John Hynes, again, the lines that he picks and who he deploys when, and again, looking at this is kind of gross. Like, I don't know. There's just not much there. Again, you see our boy Jake Middleton at the top, and shout out to him. I thought he had a good game. At least didn't make any big negative plays like some other defensemen, but like Boldy, Zuccarello, Kaprizov, Eriksson Ek, even Freddie Gaudreau, a certain name right after that. But again, like the top of the lineup generating that offense, and that's what has been all postseason for Minnesota, Kirk. Like, again, getting Johansson back into this lineup has been a great thing, of course, for the team. Hartman, despite, you know, what happened, I mean, I'll play this again. We do have the Hartman goal at the end of this, so actually, I'll just play it here. Like, this was a nice goal, regardless. And I mean, he's been playing great these playoffs, and if that goal counted, he would have been up to, 5 points in 5 games. But again, right now, the top of the lineup is the only thing doing anything for this team. There's a lot of detriment down in the lineup, but you know what? Let's get into that in a second. I did want to pivot gears because we got to talk about, again, John Merrill maybe a bit more, but especially the forwards where we got some talk. Well, I want to talk about our boy Marc Andre Fleury because this was a shock. Like, Filip Gustavsson coming in, having an incredible game, making some huge saves on Vegas, keeping Minnesota into it. He went out with an illness, and Marc Andre Fleury came in and he made NHL history, his 18th postseason, passing Martin Brodeur and Patrick Roy for the most in NHL history. Kirk, like, I know he let in that game-winning goal, was not his fault, not much he could have done at all. I thought he did pretty good in a postseason that I think absolutely no one expected to see him.
Yeah, shout out to Marc Andre Fleury. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Coming in 2 weeks cold. I can't remember the exact amount, but I think it was something like 18 days coming in cold here in a playoff game against the Vegas Golden Knights. You know, as much as I hate the Vegas Golden Knights, they are a phenomenal team. And having Fleury come out here, not just cold, not even having, a full starting warm-up. He came in the third period, came in overtime, made some big saves when needed, and really showed why he is one of the greatest of all time in the net. And having this history really just seems to kind of sum it all up on, the season's not over yet, but his final season of his career, adding this one to the record books just seems fitting for him. And especially with another team after the whole thing that happened in Chicago against Vegas, and with Vegas, it really seems fitting that he's kind of getting this underway again. And, whether it is he starts next game or not, I expect that whatever wild goalie's in net to really be able to hold that down, and it goes to show the benefit of having two starting
Oh,
caliber
yeah.
goalies as a tandem in these playoffs.
Absolutely. And you know what? I mean, you look across the rest of the playoffs, there's been a couple of instances of a backup having to go in. I mean, we're talking about in Edmonton. We're talking about, well, that's a different story, but we're talking about in Montreal with an injury. And even now here in illness with Filip Gustavsson, having a guy who you can rely on as a backup is very, very important for you in a series. So great shout out to Marc Andre Fleury. It's good for him. Again, big home game coming up. But Kirk, I think it's time. Look, I think this says it all. The amount of replies, the amount of replies after 2 minutes on Michael Russo's tweet, honestly, I don't know what else we can say. This is what you've all been waiting for. Kirk, look, we were watching this together. I jumped out of my seat when it happened. I thought it might have been a kick. I don't know. I don't love the idea that they can review something twice in the play. I get it's the rules. First is initiated by the ref. Second is initiated by Vegas, who went for the challenge for the offside. One, like, couple millimeters offside against the spirit of the game. I guess the rule's the rule. I think there's a lot of talk about a certain player, Gustav Nyquist. I don't want to turn this into, I hate you, Gustav Nyquist, because a lot of people are talking about that right now, and I don't feel it's fair to criticize an NHL player for me sitting on my couch for something like that. However, Kirk, what I can say, I don't want to see him back in this lineup. What were your thoughts on this? I don't know. I'm just thinking, my brain's mush. What do you think about this, man? I'm going nuts.
Yeah, when we were watching this, we saw it go in. What a play it was. Ryan Hartman, shout out on that goal. One thing that certainly has been a big thing for the Wild, have been able to crash the net. A lot of those are going on in Naden Hill, so hopefully that's something they kind of think about next game, but Gustav Nyquist really did ruin this. Now, Gustav Nyquist had his flowers in his career. He is getting a bit older, of course. He's not the Gustav Nyquist he was with the Detroit Red Wings a decade ago, but this play and this series, and frankly, since he acquired by the Wild, has continued to show that he is not deserving of a lineup spot right now. The Wild have a few younger guys like Liam Ogren, someone that could pop into this lineup, whoever it may, Ville Hinostroza, whoever it is, can pop into this lineup with ease and do whatever Gustav Nyquist is doing and better, far, far better. And just kind of having this as the icing on top, we made a kind of a shout out to him while we were playing the game, like a nice block to come in on that goal and then win on offside. It frankly is unacceptable. The rules have changed. You can cover your skate over the blue line. Things such as simple as that. Yet he still does not do it. I understand that, you're focusing on the play here, but a bit of spatial awareness, especially for a veteran like Gustav Nyquist, is needed on this play, and it goes to show how detrimental things can be. But as you mentioned as well, those double replays, those double challenges, whatever you want to call it, something needs to be done about that. And like you said, I completely understand that the first one was initiated by the referees. And if that is, there should be a time limit or something that Vegas has to put a challenge in by then, because they had quite some time to be able to review if this was offside or not. And the replays that we had seen early on certainly showed that. Look, it looked like it was, well onside. It was going to be a clean goal, but the one angle showed that it was clearly offside. And if we didn't see it first, surely Vegas didn't either. So that really kind of just grinds my gears. I don't want to put the full blame on Gustav Nyquist, but it's very, very hard not to in this specific instance.
It's hard. Again, it's heartbreak, right? Because what did we say right after it happened? It's like, as soon as the goal came back, it's like, how these kind of games go. Because the narrative then was like, Fleury's coming in, the Wild are buzzing, they get a goal, they're going up with a minute left in the third. They're going to go back home with a 3-2 series lead, to have it completely ripped out of our heart, all because of, what angle's he even taking here? Where is he going? When we watch this play again, I mean, he's going to fill in for him, but just drag your skate. I don't know. Look, I never played hockey at the level of Gustav Nyquist, and again, it just sucks. And again, him and John Merrill's defensive mistake in overtime when Rossi goes down low. I don't even know, Kirk. Look, there's a lot we could talk about. This is a devastating day for Wild fans. Seems to be the norm, unfortunately. Look, like you said, there's a few guys in the press box to end this video off. I want to talk about this. I would not be mad to see both Hinostroza and Ogren drawn to the lineup. I think Ogren in for Nyquist is almost a shoo-in at this point. Hinostroza, again, is older, maybe more of a veteran, so you might be more likely to see him. And I know you got some feelings about Brazo as well. I feel like John Hynes is not going to pull him out of the lineup just because big boy do big things despite consistently being pretty bad. Though Rossi's doing what he can to elevate that line. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think there's any guaranteed lineup changes heading into the next game? Do you think Merrill stays? Do you think Nyquist stays? What are you thinking?
I do think the one that we can say for certain will be Gustav
Yeah.
Nyquist. I do think he'll be out. Whether that is Ogren, whether that is Hinostroza, is yet to be determined. But I didn't mind John Merrill in this game. Of
Yep.
course, that overtime goal was detrimental. That was not the play to make, but it does go to show that his veteran, partnership was there in this game, evidently. And Zeke Boyum certainly would have made some different plays there, and they wouldn't have been to that level of experience in the playoffs. So I'm okay with that for the most part. But Justin Brazeau, a big guy, he has potential when he plays. Very rarely does he ever kind of exceed expectations. But the Wild have built something nice. Marco Rossi, I wouldn't mind seeing move up. That would really eliminate that fourth line completely then. So I think John Hynes and Bill Guerin have some decisions to make ahead of the next game because that's one game left. If you lose that, you are done. Now, is this it? I'm not saying it is because the Wilds have a great fan base at home. They play well at home. And
Number one.
knowing this team, they can come back from this. But the Vegas Golden Knights are a tough opponent. And a game like this, with the challenges they had here tonight, certainly will not make this game easy for them.
No, the momentum's all going Vegas' way, but hey, that crowd can turn things on a dime very, very fast. And again, like, regardless of the outcome, like, we got some great years coming up for the Minnesota Wild at the very least. I mean, it's hard to not be optimistic about the future. So many young guys, so much cap space opening up. Cannot wait. But look, we'll be right back here after the next game. And guys, I hope you stick around for it because that'll do it for this episode of Wild Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, most importantly, subscribe. Most of you, almost all of you watching, are not subscribed. And we got videos coming like this all off season long. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Kirk Day. We'll catch you in the next one.